What's up, guys? It's time to take a look at the CYL and FEH Channel. Consider this more of a reaction analysis video. I didn't do this one live, so it's like especially for you guys on YouTube. I didn't have the time, but here we are. So I know a little bit of what's going on here, but I didn't really get the full details of it. So I'm gonna go through this video. I'm just gonna start and stop in every little section, just give my thoughts on it and what it could mean. As we get the banners and other details upon whatever modes or units or whatnot, I'll make separate videos to that. But yeah, consider this mostly a FEH Channel impressions and reactions to everything that's going on, as I kind of know minimal stuff here. So yeah, let's just jump straight into it, folks. Alright, so we're starting with the CYL results here. And I know a lot of you were probably invested more in this than I was. So happy to you guys who voted any of this stuff. Personally, I'm kind of happy we have both Chrom and Tiki here, as I did like both of them. I'm a fan of both adult and young Tiki. Anyone who's been part of the Twitch stream experience knows I love Tiki, both the adult and the young versions. She's just really cool. I even have a you know what? Just because you guys on YouTube don't always see this, I'll actually show you. These are the actual, like, I believe Warriors amiibos for both Chrom and Tiki. So this is kind of cool that they both win, and I have them both. But yeah, I am pretty... Like Tiki's core for me in Heroes, and I honestly really liked her in Awakening. So here it is. I thought that would be a good moment for you guys to see. But yeah, so CYL results, don't have much to say. We'll talk about it more when they actually are released later. Expect someone like Chrom to just have like change fate as usual and make things ridiculous, as we'll no doubt see later. I'm interested to see what they do with Tiki, and hopefully it's interesting in that respect. I know Seliph and Byleth, this is like the 3-house vote over here, and Seliph, I believe, made some sort of crazy comeback and win, and he's honestly kind of an interesting choice as well. I'm surprised it's not even Sigurd. I didn't even expect Seliph to win this one. So yeah, let's move on to the next section here. We have rewards. Now, one thing I gotta say is, okay, last year we had Forma Soul, and this year we get like a third of a Forma Soul in the form of a Celestial Stone. So you don't necessarily get the whole Forma Soul. They're like, yeah, you guys can just like pick whatever you want. But realistically, the most valuable thing is gonna be a Forma Soul in most situations. I guess that choice for being able to maybe pick like some flowers or more trade fruits could be good, but honestly, I think the Forma Soul is always the best case. So a third of a Forma Soul here is interesting. And of course, they didn't want to give us 55 orbs, because that's a lot of orbs to give for free. So that's kind of a disappointment, but a lot of the other stuff is cool. At least we get like 555 grails. That's a lot of grails for sure. There are a little bit more rewards though in the later section with Aether Raids and Anniversary Quests, where we get 10 tickets for the banner that we'll talk about in a moment, 5 more orbs instead of 55, because why give us 55 for the 5th anniversary? A lot of codes, a lot of stones, flowers, and you know, the same old stuff. So that's awesome. Moving on, we even have Tempest Trials quest for the Tempest Trials banner and the tickets associated with that. That's nice. And again, another third of a Forma Soul, as I'll call it. So if you haven't already redeemed for a Forma Soul at this point. But I guess giving us more stones is good. I hope they continue to do this and it's not just an anniversary thing, because that way we can actually pick up a lot more stuff from maybe the Celestial Stone shop. More codes is great, more fodder, more flowers. Can't really complain with any of that. So moving on is something really cool. So for newer players, everyone gets the these guys in rotation now. They're like permanent GHB quests. I think this is great for new players. So you get the old GHBs and now you get the new ones, and you can basically get all of these copies. And a lot of these characters are really strong for the refines. Like Julius is a great carry, for example. Leon can work really well. I feel like Takumi is still a great partner for someone like Kronia. And then we even have some great ones coming up for refines as well. I'm sure Aversa's could have a really good refine. Walhart is amazing. Nesala and Pane are due for refine soon. So I totally expect a lot of these units to actually get upgraded in great ways. But that's not the only thing. If you're playing during this event, they're actually just giving us a free 5-star as long as you complete the quest daily of every single one of them. And some of these characters are great for one-offs, such as like Aversa for support or Nesala for Arena Assault. I get a lot of value out of him in Arena Assault. But you could actually build a lot of these uses carries, such as Julius here, who really would appreciate merges, or Kana. So like or Leon. There's some really good free stuff, and this is awesome. I really like this because it applies to everyone, and for sure, new players will benefit greatly from this if you missed earlier copies. So yeah, next up is huge news, which is a anniversary Hero Fest, but this also replaces the new players Hero Fest, which in my opinion wasn't too great anyways. This one is crazy good, and I'll explain why. So offense mythics haven't really been on Hero Fest. They've been on like OG banners on like Regan, for example, or Ashe, but being on a Hero Fest is crazy good because it's the highest rates you can get for an individual hero in the game, and offense mythics have the most impact in your progression for Aether Raids. Now, not only that, but they end up picking the, probably in my opinion still, the best Astro Mythic, which is Plumeria. Having a dancer makes your experience in Aether Raids much easier than not having one. And I'm speaking as an Altina user, by the way, and still don't have Plumeria, not even a single copy. So a new player, or even those of you who haven't gotten into Aether Raids yet, having Plumeria here is a great boon. So we get 10 tickets, but also at the Hero Fest rates, you're probably going to be picking up a lot of copies of Plumeria at the best rates in the game. And it doesn't really stop there, because despite Plumeria being like the golden prize of this banner, the other ones are still really good. So Dimitri, if you're just getting into Arena or you don't have any Water Legendary merged up at all, Dimitri is a high scoring, I'm going to say decent Water Legendary. I don't think he's by any means one of the better ones, but he's definitely serviceable and he does score really well. Plus, he's actually pretty good in Aether Raids, all things considered. So by having like Plumeria and Dimitri, you're just going to have an easier time overall with a lot of different strategies. Now, the other two don't have as much of a direct progression on your account as I would say that going for Plumeria or Dimitri on this banner would, but Bridal Catria is still, even with Elamine's existence, going to be very prominent as both a Summoner Duels unit and a great addition to a lot of air defenses and even air offense strategies. So despite Elamine's existence, Bridal Catria is still going to be good against players who A, don't have Elamine, but B, she's still going to be super strong in Dark Season where Elamine doesn't exist. And if you run a defense team that isn't completely focused on the Bridal Catria effect, so if you actually have a lot of different lanes that potentially Elamine wants to hit, for example, let's say Infantry Pulse or a Grand Scratcher or something, or Duma's Upheaval, and they're all in different lanes, then you're going to make it pretty difficult for Elamine to truly get value against your team. So Bridal Catria is still going to be a good addition even on most defenses, and that is good as a one-off, but it also impacts a little bit of Resonant Battles tiering as well, which is pretty insignificant, but it's still something to talk about and consider here. Finally, we have the god of SDR and Summoner Duels in general, which is Yuri. So like every single unit here, even for a new player or even veterans who just don't have these units, is going to make a huge impact for a lot of game modes. I didn't even mention Yuri's, of course, really great for air offense as well. It's just a very solid, probably one of the best banners we've had in a very long time, and I think this should appeal to most players in the game one way or another. New players can basically just farm a bunch of orbs and just jump into basically every mode in the game, and I cannot recommend skipping something like this. Even with Hero Rises coming, and even if there was a dream like 4 green banner with like Ninja Korin, Dual Dogger, Azura, and like Thor or something, that's still gonna be, this banner is still gonna be extremely good value for those that are looking to just make progression in different areas of the game. So I will likely be also committing to this banner, probably immediately, because I just don't see a better banner coming up even through the middle of the month, and even through Hero Rises I described. In my case, it's going to be very important as I need Astra merges, and Plumeria is going to be better than every other case I can possibly think of for the rest of this month. So in my case, making that AR progression is really good, and I'm sure many of you guys as well have a lot of value that you could probably get out of this banner. If you do, just let me know in the comments. I'd love to read about them. Anyways, moving forward, we have the traditional yearly, you get a free seasonal from the last year type of thing. And okay, so realistically, I think most people are gonna really want green here, as it just has the greatest amount of hits and least amount of losses, meaning the only real like super bad options here are going to be something like Casper and probably I'd say Alphons, and even that they're like still gonna be okay, I guess. With well, no, Casper's pretty bad, but at least Alphons can be giving you like Immediate Blooms and Bold Fighter, whereas everyone else is a super strong hit, like getting like Dual Dogger or Ninja Korin or some Rashida or even Gustav or even Dual Honoka. There's just some really, really, really good Bridal Catria. They're all really good greens, and I would recommend, if I think for most people, to pick up green. If you don't see green though, then colorless seems like a pretty solid secondary, or red, but definitely avoid blue, as like half of that cast is like 4-star focuses with not as good fodder. Colorless has some good stuff there, definitely with Lysithia, dual Myrrh, dual Leaf, I believe dual Hilda, so there's just some good stuff there. Sol with odd recovery, and C dual Cavalry 4. So definitely colorless and green, I think, are the winners if you can try to land those, if you haven't already, that is. And red has some good stuff as well, but blue is the biggest loser of this batch by far. All right, next up we got 5th anniversary maps, which is just basically free orbs, free stuff. And I believe we have Hero Rises coming up. So if you were to vote for stuff here, the only thing I would recommend is going to be something that's just rare to pick up. It's going to follow the exact same format as last year, which was just the voting, like the top 8 into a voting gauntlet. And again, I just recommend, if you're going to vote here, that you pick up the rarest units in the game, or at least vote for the rarest units in the game that you want. So that would be like the seasonals, like Dual Azura, Dual Dogger, Ninja Korin, who show up only once a year, or the legendaries and mythics that are just harder to get due to legendary mythic banners having terrible rates. So again, my recommendations and the easiest stuff to get would be green, Thor, Eitri, Dual Dogger, Harmonize Azura, Ninja Korin. Green is basically where I'm throwing my votes, and if you're not sure where you should throw them in, definitely do it there. More common units in the permanent pool, definitely am advised to do. Like, putting a vote into Fallen Edelgard, for example, is, in my opinion, one of the worst choices you can make. She's strong, I recognize she's a good unit, but she's common enough that most people are going to have her, or at least can spark her, or might just see her as a pity break at some point. She's just more common of a unit, and most people will be able to get her much easier. And you'll probably see her on a skill banner. She's popular. It's Fallen Edelgard at the end of the day. You're going to see her on different banners, so why waste a slot on something that could just be a lot better, which is in the Hero Rises and much rarer units that a lot of people, including yourself, will likely get value out of. So that's my reasoning on that. It does come with the Spark, so same format as last year. And yeah, moving on, we do have the Awakening Valentines banner featuring Lucina, who hasn't had an ult in actually quite some time. I believe the last one was like Harmonize Mia. We got the Valentine's Robin, female Robin. We got Owain here. We don't know too much about them. I think there are a couple of stats and stuff. I think Owain is 4-star focus with Blue Flame, which is, you can't see it because I'm covering it, but effectively that is a pretty solid thing to pick up for fodder. Just 4-star focus. Blue Flame is pretty nice. Mostly an arena skill though, so it's not imperative that you pick up too many copies. And finally, our free Tempest Trials unit is going to be Lissa, who is whatever. It's another staff user, but potentially could be good depending on what the staff does. Hopefully it's nice. Finally, we have our duo, which is Chrom and Robin. But as you'll notice, and I'll take off my cam so you do notice, that is Change Fate, folks, with Destiny's Bow, which seems to have some sort of effective damage, and Deadeye. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I hope you're ready for more Change Fate shenanigans in the other seasons, because that's ultimately what is to come. Finally, yeah, so Lissa is our free Tempest Trials unit, and moving on, we have a little bit here about Hero's Journey, which is, I guess, some nice, cool events and whatnot. You get more memory fragments, see more cute stuff, but not really much to talk about there. We have a hero merit limit increase. This is great feathers, more feathers overall if you end up farming your units. And here's where we approach some really cool stuff featuring new Aether Raids maps. This is so overdue at this point that I'm like shocked that it even happened, but I'm actually pretty happy because this does open up more strategies on defense, and hopefully with those new strategies could end up giving some sort of advantage for defense players as they formulate some new stuff. I do want to note that I actually think both of these maps are viable from first impression, with the bridge map limiting opponent space, where you basically only give anyone that's not a flyer 3 spaces on that bridge if you were to use your fort to block off a lane, which is really good. So it's even more limiting than something like a Lost Castle. It feels actually very like Spring Breeze-ish, like old Spring Breeze, where you didn't have many lanes to play through. And this is quite an advantage for defense, as it not only funnels the defense team through that gap instead of spreading out like on Spring Breeze, it keeps them all grouped up, but it also limits your opponent's offense options by limiting their space as well. So I think that is a good bridge map. Definitely will be testing it out and using it myself. Might even cover it in a future video once I play around with it. And finally, this map I think is actually also pretty good. So the reason I feel like this map here is pretty good is because those are tree defense tiles. Now, tree defense tiles might seem like they're not great, but the thing is, if your defense team relies on a far save unit and doesn't use near save, for example, then it is actually pretty hard to snipe, I would say, this team. In particular, like if you were to set up just with far save, because with melee snipers or melee hidden runs or melee gale force, they're usually cav units and sometimes even like infantry units. But the thing is, cavs can't enter obviously the forest tile, and melees don't have as much reach. So the only units that are really going to take advantage of those tree tiles are going to be like flyers, which you don't see too many hidden runs or snipe type units that are going to be melee. So I feel like if you have a far save defense but no near save, then this map should be pretty good. The only drawback, of course, is the lack of being able to defend your front line with traps, but the trees kind of like replace this kind of style anyways, and I do think that this map can be pretty good too. So both of these are nice additions for defense, and I'm looking forward to testing them personally and seeing what sort of changes we might get at it. This is definitely exciting. I'm hoping to see more out of it. Finally, we're getting new arena maps, and the arena maps are I'm not a huge fan of breakable blocks, as it ends up being really annoying. So some of the maps here, like the one that I'm covering with my cam again, has breakable blocks. The one at the bottom right has breakable blocks, and a couple other ones do as well. And this can make things pretty annoying, as block AI can be kind of random sometimes. It's not actually random, it's just not commonly seen. So you have to like really think about whether the AI is going to break the block to close the distance. And because of that, combined with like dancer shenanigans, it might end up sniping some units. So in one way, it's a great thing to kind of learn block AI, but another thing, it's annoying because it does change the way you might be comfortable playing. Either way, a lot of the other maps are interesting, but I'm going to reserve my opinion on them once I've played them more and see how it goes up. Finally, we do have Summoner Duels S coming mid-February. I don't know what to think of it, but this is basically the only screen we have for it, which kind of reminds me of like Arena Assault. But if this is more akin to something like a counter pick or best out of 3 system, then I'm actually for this. And the reason for that is because you can genuinely play against someone where they just have the complete counter team or counter units to whatever strategy you were running, or you just don't have the right answer. So you might be trying to counter one specific strategy and they just have the counter to your strategy. So in a kind of like rock, paper, scissors dilemma, where you're just kind of hoping that you match into a player who has a team that you counter effectively. But if this ends up being more like counter picking, or you counter pick a team, or it's more rock paper scissors ish, then I actually think that this might be an upgrade over Summoner Duels R, and I'm looking forward to seeing what exactly to do with this. I hope it's not just like you use these 4 teams against 4 random players, because that wouldn't be that great. But if it is more of a best of 3 kind of system where you're using, you know, like 3 out of these 4 teams, then that is actually really good. One other thing that I think is notable here is that none of the units look like they're repeating over the different teams, so you're limited to using different units and different teams. There's no repeating as I can see here, so it's going to really encourage a more wide barracks, or at least more wider in strategies. Okay, next up is some summoning changes, which I think was a bit overdue, but it's catching up everything up to the CYL3 units and adding them to the 4-star specials, along with the weekly revivals. So this is definitely great, because some of the CYL3 units are amazing, such as Brave Alm, Brave Micaiah for sure. And a lot of these other units are pretty much going to be getting refined soon enough. And some of them were pretty bad. Pity Breakers, I have gotten Fallen Tiki personally at least like 3 or 4 times. So yeah, it's not so great to see her, and I'm glad she's out of the pool for that. Okay, and finally, we have a Legendary Hero Remix, also featuring Air, which is now, they're pretty much just called Legendary and Mythic Remixes. Now, that's great. I think that was pretty much expected, where Hrid, okay, so starting off, we have Hrid here getting upgraded to Freezing Seal 2, and of course Attack, Defense, Menace. So he does have some synergy in his kit for sure, as his weapon, as we don't know what it is yet. Weapon Refined, at least in the base form, gives him an auto double and denies an auto double as long as there's penalties on the opponent. So it's going to synergize with the guard, it's going to synergize with his Menace, and he's going to be pretty good as a result of that. However, I don't think he's going to be on the level of someone like Legendary Sigurd, who obviously gives mobility, form movement, and other shenanigans. Consider they're both red sword calves, and I think in most cases everyone's going to prefer Sigurd. So that sucks to be a Hrid user, but it is an upgrade for those that already maybe merged him. Finally, we have Air's Remix, and we don't know what her Weapon Refine is yet, but this is a nice upgrade to Air users, where Sparkling Boost Plus is going to be healing 20 instead of 10 every turn. That's cool. And the another addition is that she's just going to straight up give res plus 5 to anyone in combat as long as she's on the field anywhere on the map. This type of effect where it's like a map wide spur where regardless of where she is and just giving more res, I think is a great addition, as Air herself is going to effectively be providing long distance healing and long distance res support. Her blessing already gives 5 res, and now Sparkling Boost Plus will effectively give another 5 res. So she herself, just by existing, is going to buff res on your team by 10 to anyone who engages in combat. This makes her really good, just for tanking teams for sure. Attack res unity is great for fodder on a couple of units. It doesn't really, in my opinion, do much for her, I guess. She can reach a good attack and res stat when high merged and high invested, but I don't see her getting hit by it too much or getting a lot of value out of it herself. Will reserve my opinion though once I see her weapon and Hrid as well. Okay, next up is the addition of 4-star specials on seasonal units, but only on seasonal banners. What I feel this does accomplish is increase the likelihood that you're going to get some random 5-star on these older banners on your free summon. What does kind of suck, I guess, is that there's no way to target these older units. So, for example, Spring Camilla is just going to be dropped into 4-star special ranked, but like, how are you supposed to kind of get the merges on someone like that, I guess? Maybe I missed the perspective here, but you guys can clarify in the comments below. But if you actually wanted these older units, they're going to become much rarer and much harder to get, and you're just going to be like randomly getting them on 4-star specials. But the beauty here is that overall, it's just a high rate of getting 5 stars and 4-star specials, because the 4-star special rate originally is there, the 4-star special hero special rate is an addition, and then you have your 5-star focus and 5-star pity break. So just a free summon with a 5-star at this point is going to be likely, and you'll just get a lot of fodder that way. So that's awesome. And that pretty much concludes this Fed channel, guys. Overall, I think it's a good Fed channel. It's definitely not one of the worst, which I would say was more like Fed Pass introduction. That one was not too great. But yeah, overall, there's some cool stuff. I am definitely excited about the Aether Raids maps additions. Those are super exciting for me, as I love to design defenses, and I probably will follow up with videos involving that. Bridal Catria being on the Hero Fest is a great addition for you guys who still want to build defenses, and I do think that despite Elamine existing, that doesn't really take away completely her viability. It just gives counterplay to Bridal Catria, which before Elamine was pretty much reserved to Gatekeeper. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this Fed channel. This banner is a definite win, and you may want to wait for Hero Rises. You might want to wait for Hero Rises if you feel like a lot of these units don't really serve you much purpose, because Hero Rises could end up being really good with a lot of green stuff, such as Thor, Ninja Korin, Zura, Dual Dogger, etc. If that happens, then yes, this Hero Fest could be completely outclassed. As someone who's maybe a new player or beginning, this is a great place to dump tons of orbs into Plumeria and Dimitri, especially Plumeria. I think that covers it for me, folks. At the end of this video, after this video, I'm likely going to be live streaming on Twitch and even considering myself Plumeria at that point. Come check me out. And of course, SDR week is upon us, so I will be playing some more SDR on stream along with AR and other cool stuff, maybe even designing defenses if we happen to land a Bridal Catria. See you guys very soon. Thank you as always. Give this video a thumbs up if you appreciate this content. Sub if you haven't already. If you love what I do, then highly consider the Patreon in the description below. That is the best way to support this content and to continue seeing me here day after day. Love you all. See you in the next one. Peace.